Stephen Wiseman for the News Observer, North Carolina. The Duke story with Maalik Murphy being named the starter, which is something I think everyone expected, but you never know. And so he gives us insight on that and joins us on 365 Sports. Stephen, thank you very much for your time. So was there any doubt that Maalik Murphy would end up being the starter? And what was the competition there at quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, they had Grayson Loftus in their battling with him, who he started the last 5 games of last year after Riley Leonard got hurt. He won the bowl game over Troy. He acquitted himself pretty well, actually. And so he is a guy with experience, with actually, more experience than Maalik Murphy, right, who started those 2 games for Texas. So that made it, not a slam dunk by any stretch. But, I think, Murphy was the leader coming in. And, I've told other people, they brought him in here for a reason, right? So it's kind of like this is where college athletics is now. You have a big free agent acquisition in the off season. You're probably going to play him. So I think that was the case. But he had to go out there and show it on the field. He had to prove it to Manny Diaz and all that after the spring, and then after here in fall camp that he has a big arm and he's going to throw it to the right people, and that's what he did.
How has Manny Diaz tried to keep the momentum that Duke built under Mike Elko? Because Duke is a program, and you know this, that things get going well in football, and then somebody takes their coach. And Manny Diaz, it feels to me like a good fit in that he's maybe not gotten his fair shake as a head coach where he's been, and this is an opportunity for him to try to do that. But it's still difficult when you're a program that has 2-3 good years, and then somebody yanks your coach away. Yeah,
it's hard to maintain even when David Cutcliffe was here, right? He had it going pretty good there for a while and went to an ACC championship game, and then it kind of fell off at the end. So it can be a tough place to maintain winning year after year with some of the obstacles you have to overcome. But yeah, I think the biggest thing Manny Diaz did was retain David Feely as his strength coach. That's the guy that Elko brought in to start his tenure here, his short tenure of 2 years. And it made such a big difference in the program with the work they did in the weight room and the confidence everybody had that Diaz, was able to retain David. They worked together at Miami when Manny was down there, so that helped. And then that created this great continuity where even though you had a complete change of the coaching staff, you didn't have a change in that one key position. And so everybody bought into the offseason. They kept doing the same work they had done previously. And so that made it easier. So that was a really good move by Manny. And then, of course, getting Maalik Murphy in last December was another signal that, hey, Manny's here to win just like Mike Elko did. And so they don't expect there to be a drop-off.
What, Stephen, are the big differences you think that people will notice just stylistically with Duke this year compared to the last couple?
I think on offense, with the new offensive coordinator, Jonathan Brewer, who came in from SMU, he's already said they're going to play faster. They're going to have a little faster tempo. And it's not that, under Kevin Johns, when Elko was here, they were slow by any stretch, but even the players have said, some of the returning players, that they have to be in a little better shape. They have to move a little faster because there's going to be a little less time in between plays. So I think that might be the first thing people will notice is the pace on offense. And I think defense, they're gonna be aggressive. They're gonna dial things up like Elko did, and try to get after the quarterback like they did and everything. So they're gonna have a strong secondary. I know that they have other guys returning from last year. There's other questions there on defense, but they're gonna have a strong secondary. But I think that's what you're gonna notice.
Are you gonna be able to make that trip to go watch the game in Chicago, Northwestern, in that stadium that they have right there on the lake as they build another one?
That's going to be interesting, isn't it? We'll see. Yeah, it's on a Friday night, so it doesn't start till 9:00 Eastern. So that's going to be a late night game for people reading my story on the East Coast. But yeah, that'll be a neat trip, and we'll see what happens with that. I'm really curious to see how that's going to play out up there. That's something we don't see in college athletics, right? A temporary stadium, but it's supposed to be right on the lakefront, so hopefully it'll be warm. I'm afraid it's going to be cold in Chicago on the lakefront.
Thank God in September, though. At least it's not October, November.
Certainly don't want to do it in November, that's for sure.
Yeah. Do you think that they have looking at the schedule, they host Florida State. They've got to go to Miami and NC State. But outside of that, is this pretty manageable for them to keep that momentum?
I think it is, and you're right to hone in on that middle part of the season. That's going to be the tough stretch. That's going to decide whether this can be a 5, 6, 7 win team or more. The way they play there, but they sure get a chance to start off in a strong fashion. By they open with Elon, the FCS opponent, at home, and then you talk about that trip to Northwestern, and then they have UConn and Middle Tennessee. So this isn't like last year when they had Notre Dame as a non-conference game and things like that. They've played Alabama here on the past in non-conference, and they're not doing that this year. So you've got a real opportunity to win your first 4 games, and then you have a home game with your rival North Carolina, who you haven't beaten in 6 years now. So that's something. But and then you have Georgia Tech on the road. Then you get a bye, right? And so you got 6 games, half your season's done. Then you get a bye, an open week, and then you have the 4 tough games you talked about, and then there's another bye after those 4. So they're going to know after the first month here, what direction the season's going. If they can come out of those first 6, with 4 or 5 wins, which is possible, then you can really try to build on something special. But if you stumble out of the gate and you're 3-3, you're looking. It's going to be tough sledding to get to a bowl game because that middle stretch is pretty brutal.
Stephen, the ACC has obviously been in the news quite a bit, welcoming in 3 new schools and SMU, Cal, and Stanford here in the next couple of weeks, but also a lot of questions about the future beyond that. How, for the most part, have Duke fans or yourself in particular just sort of absorbed and reacted to all of the noise surrounding the conference over the past year?
Yeah, it's certainly something to be paying attention to. I remember having conversations with Mike Elko after practice a couple days last fall about some of this stuff, right? We talked about what's going to happen with the ACC and everything, and it was uncertain then, and it's uncertain now. But nothing's going to happen with Clemson or Florida State. I think it's not going to happen this year, and probably not going to happen next year. It's going to be some time as this thing unfolds. I don't think it's going to happen. It's not a matter of months or weeks. We're talking years here, so because of the contracts. And it's got to wind through the courts. The courts don't do anything fast. So there's no need to get in a hurry about that. But so the ACC added 3 teams to prepare itself, protect itself against departures, frankly. And so not everybody agrees with who they brought in. I don't think it's good to have the ACC in California, but that's the world we live in now. So I guess that's the way it's going to have to be. But it's uncertain for sure. But they're going to press forward with what they have now. I think they have a strong conference now, and we'll see what happens with the 2 that want to leave. But it's going to be a while for this to unfold.
Just be careful, Stephen, when you write a reminiscing type story about the greatest moments in ACC football. Though, don't forget Stanford Cal and the famous finish is now a part of the ACC. That's what's going to be hard for me to kind of wrap my arms around. Or let me ask you this: Duke, we know basketball, and of course we have right here in our backyard what Baylor does in basketball. But when football's good, it's on the radar. What is it like there, Duke football, in the comparisons to the 100% interest of Duke basketball like Kansas is going through right now with a nice little resurgence in football?
Right. And Duke played at Kansas a few years ago when Kansas was just there in the top 25. I was at that game. And it was kind of a neat environment. Like, okay, they care about football here too now, and that's good. And that's the way, it is with Duke football. I mean, last year when they opened the season on Monday night on Labor Day night and they beat Clemson 28-7, and it was a sold-out stadium, and they stormed the field, that was a different feeling for Duke football, and it was a really good feeling for the campus. And so you started to get the feeling, Elko really did a good job engaging the students here and getting them in, giving away jerseys to them to come to games and incentivizing that way, and moving the seats like kind of in the corner, like right by the visiting side, so they could kind of harass the visitors like the Cameron Crazies do. And so that's helped a lot. I mean, football's never going to be basketball here. Let's face it, that's too high of a hill to climb. But you just want to have some of the enthusiasm, and so they're making changes at the stadium. They've upgraded the stadium in the last 10 years, and really tried. They know football has to be relevant for the future of college athletics at Duke. So they're doing their best with it, and I think they're making progress. There's a long way to go because they don't sell 40,000 seats for every game by any stretch, but they're making progress.
Thank you, Stephen. Good stuff. We appreciate your time. Thank you for the update. The Maalik Murphy starting quarterback at Duke, among other things, with a new coach, and Manny Diaz. Elko back at Texas A&M. Stephen Wiseman from the Raleigh News and also Observer.